Welcome to our overview of Agile development, chatter, and our request release process for Salesforce.com. The big ideas that we were trying to solve when we developed this idea of an Agile development environment inside Salesforce were, number one, we wanted to really simplify the client's ability to manage their internal request process. Many of our clients struggle with managing the internal process of identifying what those features are that users want and identifying when those features can be created and modified. Secondly, we wanted to simplify the release planning associated with those requests and not only give the ability for the user to vet those ideas better, but also make it easier for them, the user and the administrator, to identify when those requests would be released. We also wanted to accelerate the delivery of relevant solutions by using chatter and collaboration to improve the way that an idea is identified and the way that we vet the idea so that we're developing the best solution possible for the best idea. And finally, we wanted to enhance communication and collaboration. So I wanted to just quickly introduce some basic Agile principles and then how we use those principles in our request release process to make the system more usable. In the Agile or Scrum model, there are really four major groups. There are users and executives are fairly straightforward in understanding, but users and executives are key in identifying ideas and requests. They're also it's very valuable to leverage them when testing ideas or testing development because they're generally the ones that have to use the system. But it's very important, though, to make whatever we do for users and executives very easy from a communication point of view and a collaboration point of view. You then have your CRM administrator, and your CRM administrator is key in setting priorities as well as approving requests and releases and really working with our project manager to identify time frame. Our project manager or Scrum Master is really key in identifying our internal resources as well as working with your project manager to identify preliminary releases and schedules as well as eliminating any obstacles that get in the way of developing the best solution. And finally, our developers and CRM consultants are involved in the process to collaborate with users to really enhance and vet out the best ideas. They're also involved in testing solutions that are created. And in many cases, they can identify ideas or create ideas and share those with the group. So the first thing that is involved in our solution and in Agile is this idea of creating a request. And a request is really any idea or concept that has potential for improvement. In addition to that, it includes features that may simplify usage. Those could be data changes or errors that are occurring in the system. And all the people that are involved in creating a request could be users, your internal admin, or our consultants work together using this request concept to really vet or enhance the idea, and we use chatter to do that. So it's a collaborative model to really come up with the best ideas. And then finally, request impact is identified when a request is being created. So we're able to really identify what's the impact of this particular solution. And this is probably the biggest idea. Requests are made right in Salesforce.com, so users are able to create these requests while they're using the tool. They don't have to go somewhere else. They don't have to send an email. And they can work on that idea directly within the solution. Now, requests are then grouped into what we call releases. And so inside of this request concept, requests can be estimated and budgeted. We work with our client to prioritize those requests and identify which ones have the biggest impact. Requests are then grouped into releases, which then can be added to what we call the release backlog. And those releases can be prioritized and, of course, scheduled. So the big idea is identifying a request, working with your users to vet the request and really identify the best way that the request can be solved, grouping those requests into releases, and then obviously scheduling and associating resources with that. This finally creates what we call a burndown chart in the Agile model, which is the ability to show what work is remaining on any particular release. Burndown charts are very useful in spotting any alarming trends or identifying any problems that exist in a project, and it's also useful in spotting any obstacles early in the process so that they can be identified. And I think the big idea is that the Burndown chart is a real-time schedule that's available inside of your Salesforce.com as releases are being performed so that your team, either your admin or your users, know what's happening. Okay, so we're going to take a quick minute and just show you a very basic demo of request release. The big idea behind the request released objects in Salesforce is to create a way for users to identify things that they're looking for, whether it be new requests, new features, data changes, or whatever, and create a platform that enables them to not only make the request, but collaborate with other users, internal administrators, as well as outside consultants to really vet out the idea and improve upon it. So you can see in this particular request, this is an existing request. If I click on chatter, I can see the related chatter thread for those users that participated and contributed to the improvement of the idea. But what's nice about this is once the chatter thread has been sort of vetted, there is a way for you to then take the consensus of that chatter thread and really record that in what we call the request description and impact. Once that's done, an administrator can then identify what the priority is for this particular issue, and I'll show that screen in just a second. And based on that, they can then identify where this fits into a release cycle, and that release cycle can also have budgets and everything else associated with it. What the administrator or manager sees related to the request is slightly different. You can see in this example that they see more detail associated with the actual request. They also have the ability to identify approvals for this particular request and then associate it with appropriate releases. What this also gives them, if working with an organization like ours, is we can then identify and or create estimates with associated costs so that they can use this to manage their budgets. And finally, it allows them to associate this particular request with an approval workflow so that the appropriate people that need to be involved in approving a request can do so. So this is the big idea behind a request. The idea is to consolidate and combine some of the ideas or principles from an Agile development model with some of the ideas and principles from Chatter to create an opportunity for your users to identify requests and then use Chatter to collaborate on those requests to really vet the best ideas and to come up with the best solutions. Thank you for taking a few minutes to watch this. In terms of next steps, we'd recommend that you install the request release object in Salesforce.com. You can then immediately give access to your admin and select users if you choose, and you can of course add users as appropriate as you want them to participate and collaborate in the process. Finally, I'd like to emphasize that the request process, the request release objects rather, are free and they're available to our clients as a way of building a relationship and helping us improve, as I said earlier, your internal communication and hopefully improve our communication with you as well. Thank you so much.